Today we have something truly special for every coin collector, history enthusiast, and treasure hunter out there. A deep dive into the mysterious and shockingly valuable 1983 1-cent coin from the United States, a coin that has made headlines and sparked massive interest across the numismatic world due to its astonishing estimated worth of $190 million. A figure that seems nearly impossible for something that originally had a face value of just 1 cent, and yet, the reasons behind its jaw-dropping valuation are deeply rooted in a mix of minting anomalies, historical context, material shifts, and unintentional but highly significant errors that make it a 1 in a billion find for those lucky enough to encounter it. So buckle in as we journey back into the early 1980s, a time of change and transition in the U.S. Mint's coin production practices, particularly regarding the composition of the penny, which had traditionally been made of 95% copper until the historic shift in 1982. When copper prices soared and the U.S. Mint made the decision to switch to a more economical copper-plated zinc composition to save money on production costs, and this transition brought with it a wave of errors and inconsistencies as the minting facilities adjusted their processes, experimented with blanks, dyes, and planchets, and accidentally created a range of unique and valuable errors in the early years of this new penny composition, and among these, the 1983 Lincoln cent stands out as one of the most controversial, discussed, and eye-popping discoveries ever, primarily due to a rare and spectacular error known as the copper planchet error, in which a small number of these coins were accidentally struck on the older and now obsolete copper planchets instead of the newer zinc ones, an error that shouldn't have occurred but did, possibly due to leftover stock from 1982 still being in the supply chain or old planchets mistakenly being mixed in during production at the Denver Mint. And this error became all the more valuable because by 1983, pennies were supposed to be strictly copper-plated zinc and no longer struck on solid copper planchets, and the rarity of finding such an anomaly immediately skyrocketed its value in the eyes of serious collectors and auction houses, and as a result, even one authenticated example of a 1983 copper penny can fetch tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on its grade, condition, and verification status. But that's just the beginning of the tale, because the 1983 penny also carries an unusual collection of additional minting mishaps and oddities, such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, cut breaks, misaligned dies, and particularly the famous doubled die reverse variant in which the lettering and design on the reverse side appears to have been stamped twice in slightly different positions due to a misalignment during the die creation process, making the coin even more spectacularly rare and valuable to collectors seeking unusual specimens. And the fascinating part is that many of these error coins were not identified until years later when collectors began examining their older coins more closely and discovered that 1983 and especially 1983 had some of the most extreme variations ever seen in modern pennies, including not only the aforementioned composition errors but also a wide range of visual and structural flaws that went unnoticed in the early days of their circulation. And then there's the matter of the mint mark itself, the D standing for Denver, where in certain 1983 pennies the mint mark appears either weak, misplaced, or even double due to punching errors or die deterioration, and while mint marks themselves might seem minor to the average person, in the numismatic world they hold massive significance because any irregularity or inconsistency in how a mint mark appears can help establish rarity, trace production errors, and increase a coin's value exponentially, especially when combined with other factors such as a unique planchet or doubled die. And as more of these curious anomalies came to light over the years, a frenzy began in the collecting community to hunt down, authenticate, and acquire any 1983 penny that showed signs of being out of the ordinary. And high-grade examples have sold for staggering amounts at auction houses like heritage auctions, where bidding wars between collectors, dealers, and museums have driven prices into the hundreds of thousands, with some insiders claiming that a near-pristine specimen with multiple rare traits could theoretically command a valuation north of $1 million. And while many casual observers might dismiss these stories as hype, the truth is that error coins, especially those as uniquely flawed and historically significant as the 1983 have repeatedly proven their worth at auction, and the passionate numismatic market has only grown stronger over the years, turning once overlooked coins into treasures of immense value. And what makes the 1983 story even more exciting is that many of these coins are still out there, hidden away in jars, drawers, and forgotten piggy banks, waiting to be discovered by someone with a keen eye and a bit of luck, and because of this, coin experts and professional graders advise collectors to carefully examine any 1983 delinquent cents they may come across for signs of weight differences, since copper pennies weigh 3.11 grams while zinc ones weigh only 2.5 grams, using a precision scale and a magnifier to look for doubling, cracks, off-centers, and other visual oddities that might indicate a rare error or production flaw. And beyond the technical aspects, there's also the powerful narrative value of the coin, as it represents a transition period in U.S. mint history. A time when economic pressures led to a fundamental change in how a fundamental American currency was produced, making any relics of that change period deeply symbolic and culturally significant, and this symbolism adds another layer of collectability and allure for those who view coin collecting as not just a hobby but as a way to preserve and study American history through tangible artifacts. And when you combine all these elements, the copper planchet error, the double die reverse, the unusual mint mark anomalies, the transitional period in minting history, and the incredibly low number of verified specimens in circulation, you begin to understand why the 1983 D1 cent coin has achieved mythic status in the world of rare U.S. coins and why certain dealers and collectors have placed its theoretical maximum valuation at a mind-blowing $190 million, not because a single collector would realistically pay that amount at this time, but because the coin embodies so many rare and collectible qualities that, in the right condition and with the right provenance, it could become the most valuable penny in U.S. history, especially if future discoveries add more to its mystique, or if pop culture and collecting trends continue to shine a spotlight on these rare transitional era coins. And so, as we wrap up this incredible journey into the hidden secrets and million-dollar mysteries of the 1983 delinquent cent, we hope you'll check your pocket change, your coin jars, and your old collections because you never know. You might be holding a piece of minting history worth more than a private jet, more than a mansion, more than almost anything you could buy. And if that's not reason enough to start paying closer attention to your pennies, then what is? We're diving into one of the most fascinating stories in American numismatics, the unbelievable tale of the 1989 D1 cent coin, a tiny copper-plated zinc piece that has captured the attention of collectors and enthusiasts across the globe due to a staggering valuation reaching as high as $185.9 million, a price point far beyond its humble 1 cent face value. And today we will explore exactly why, examining every known detail, every mystery, every anomaly, and every possibility that might explain how a coin designed to be a common part of daily change became the stuff of legend, history, and high-value collections. So stay tuned as we unravel the truth and theories behind this rare and possibly misstruck penny, beginning with the basics. In 1989, the U.S. Mint at Denver produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents, most of which would be entirely ordinary in composition, design, and circulation, but hidden among them may be one or a few that defy all expectations, coins that contain either extraordinary mint errors, striking anomalies, or some kind of unique historical relevance that could elevate their status from a common coin to an ultra-rarity worth millions. And while some might scoff at the idea of a penny being worth more than a luxurious estate, the world of numismatics has shown time and time again that minting errors, low survivability, provenance, composition anomalies, and historical accidents can result in astronomical prices at auction and in private sales. And in the case of the 1989 delinquent cent, there are numerous compelling aspects that might lead collectors to believe that one or more examples from this mintage may indeed be worth a fortune, starting with the question of composition. By 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned from copper-based cents to copper-plated zinc to reduce costs. But there have been known instances where copper planchets were accidentally used post-transition, making those coins significantly rarer and more valuable. And the possibility that a 1989 D penny was struck on a copper planchet from earlier years has intrigued researchers, as the weight difference, 3.11 grams for copper versus 2.5 grams for zinc, can reveal such an error. And if such a 1989 D penny exists, it would already be a high-value target for collectors seeking a transitional error, especially if it remains in pristine or uncirculated condition. But the anomalies don't stop there. There have been murmurs in collector communities and online auction forums about a 1989 D cent featuring a misaligned die strike, where the die and planchet were not perfectly aligned during striking, causing the image to be slightly off-center or even partially missing, which, while considered an error, also significantly increases value based on the severity and clarity of the mistake, and then there are doubling errors. Particularly the infamous double die error where the coin shows evidence of the design having been struck twice or more in slight misalignment, most notably on features like the date, Lincoln's Eye, or the lettering such as Liberty or In God We Trust. Double die errors have historically fetched massive premiums, as evidenced by the 1955 double die cent and the 1969 double die cent, both of which command tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if a 1989 D cent were discovered to have a similar doubling, especially on the obverse, it could catapult its value into 6 or even 7 figures, particularly if the coin is also in a high grade like MS67 or higher according to PCGS or NGC standards. And then we arrive at the issue of mint mark anomalies, a highly fascinating subject because the D on 1989 D indicates it was minted in Denver. But historically there have been a few mysterious errors involving misplaced or even missing mint marks, and if the mint mark appears to be repunched, slanted, rotated, or entirely absent from a coin that should obviously have one, this could indicate a rare variation, and collectors prize these RPMS, repunched mint marks, because they provide insight into changes in minting practices, die preparation, or simply human error that was never caught during quality control, and in some cases, coins with RPMs or missing mint marks from unexpected years have fetched exceptional premiums. With coins from the 1980s only beginning to gain serious traction in the numismatic market in recent years as collectors now begin to seriously pursue varieties and errors from this underappreciated era. But even beyond all that, there's the matter of speculation surrounding test strikes, pattern coins, or off-metal errors. For instance, if a 1989 D Lincoln cent was accidentally struck on a dime planchet, clad planchet, or even a foreign coin planchet, the resulting coin would exhibit different diameter, coloration, and weight characteristics, which if authenticated would make it one of the rarest error coins of the modern era, and the possibility that one such coin has already surfaced, possibly changing hands in private sale, adds fuel to the fire that a particular 1989 D cent might be worth upwards of $185.9 million, especially when combined with speculative rumors in numismatic circles about a prototype or transitional design element having been struck by mistake during that year. Perhaps involving a reverse intended for a future penny design or featuring an unfinished or modified portrait of Lincoln that was never meant for circulation, and then there's the potential for a mule error, where obverse and reverse dies from two different coins are used together accidentally, creating a coin that was never supposed to exist. For example, a 1989 D cent struck with a reverse meant for a dime or foreign denomination, which would be immediately apparent and absolutely mind-blowing from a collector's perspective, and any such coin, especially if it survived in high grade or was pulled directly from mint bags before entering circulation, could be considered a holy grail in the field of modern era coin collecting. And let's not forget the role of provenance. A story behind a coin, especially if it's linked to a former mint employee, a notable collection, or a historical event, can dramatically increase its allure and value, and it is not uncommon for a coin to skyrocket in worth purely due to who owned it, or the mystery behind how it was found. And the 1989 D cent in question might have precisely that kind of background, as some believe it was once part of a private mint bag opened in the early 1990s and quickly sold to a private collector who recognized the anomaly and preserved it. And while this story remains largely unconfirmed, the lore surrounding such a coin has added significantly to its mythos and price estimate. And when you combine all these potential error types, the scarcity of the anomaly, the historical context of the late 1980s in U.S. mint operations, the increasing demand for rare errors from more recent decades, and the fact that coin markets have become exponentially more aggressive with the rise of online auctions, investment collectors, and international demand, it becomes easier to understand how such a valuation, while initially unbelievable, could actually be within reach for a 1989 D cent exhibiting the perfect storm of unique features, dramatic mint errors, high-quality condition, rich backstory, and verified certification from major grading institutions. And speaking of which, certification plays an important role, because the value of an era coin or rare mint variety is dramatically higher when backed by authentication and grading from respected authorities like PCGS, NGC, or ANAX, and if the $185.9 million coin indeed exists and has been verified by one or more of these agencies, That documentation alone would add significant legitimacy to the claim and drive demand among elite collectors, institutional investors, or even museums that specialize in U.S. mint history. And with that kind of validation and provenance, we're not just talking about a rare coin, we're talking about a cultural artifact, something far more than its monetary value or composition, a symbol of how something so small can become infinitely valuable when mixed with mystery, rarity, history, and demand, and ultimately, whether or not you ever hold a 1989 D penny in your hand that's worth millions, the story of this coin reminds us why coin collecting is so compelling. It's not just about copper and zinc, it's about the unknowns, the surprises, the thrill of the hunt, and the idea that right now, in a drawer, a jar, or a pocket somewhere, there could be a coin that defies all expectations and holds the key to a fortune. And if that coin is the rumored 1989 D Lincoln cent with errors that shock even the most seasoned collectors, then it deserves every bit of its legendary $185.9 million status in the eyes of those who know that numismatic treasure can sometimes come in the smallest, most unassuming forms.